dear Bagginses and Boffins.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we are getting a new character reveal from some new images for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, the Amazon series coming out this fall. And here it is. We've got this new image of this character that does have a name. His name is Theo. And they are wielding a broken blade. And a lot of people are looking at this and saying, hey, that doesn't look right. We know what that sword is supposed to look like, and that is not it.
But you're right. Off camera, we said maybe that's just some other broken blade.
Yeah, so my thought is, I think if I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of a showrunner of a show where you have no access to the source material, you can't use the props from the awesome trilogy that's already come out. So what are you to do? Well, you're not going to actually show the sword that you can't use because then it would look goofy. So what you do is you make an homage to it by having another sword that is broken, and that is it. And I think that is how you make everyone happy, because then we all say, oh, I see what they're doing. They're making a parallel, and then we're happy. Just like, it's going to be a bunch of member berries. Like, we're going to look at this. It's going to be the same.
That will make me happy.
It will make us happy. See, this is why we all liked that first new Star Wars movie, and then we hated the rest. Because it was exactly the same as A New Hope.
And I mean, you could do a completely different thing. Like, this is like a blade that Morgoth stomped on and broke.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Or probably, I mean, depending on who this character is, I don't know who this Theo character is, but they don't seem to be as important.
Well, yeah, I don't know how Theo would get this precious sword.
Yeah, and like,
if it was.
I don't understand how it goes. So, just real quick, try thinking of this timeline. It gets broken, and then it is somewhere, right? It's in either Gondor or it's in Rivendell, like it's somewhere. And then somehow it's not there. And this guy finds it in this hut.
and then it ends up in Rivendell.
And then it gets back there. Now maybe he meets up with Galadriel. She's like, hey, that doesn't belong to you, little kid. Give me that shit. And she takes it and gives it to Elrond while he's visiting the dwarves. And then he brings it back. We'll see. We'll see how this works out. I don't think that's the sword. That is my new theory. That is not the sword that is to be Aragorn's sword eventually. So that's my new theory based on this. However, a lot of people have taken to Twitter to talk about how that does not look right. And I agree. It's not. They don't have access to the props. How many of these articles are we going to go through where they're like, well, that's not the right prop? Yeah, they don't have access to them for some reason. I don't get it. I remember hearing back in the day when this was all first happening that Peter Jackson was contacted and told to come out and kind of just meet with the showrunners and kind of talk to them. And it never ended up happening either because of COVID or just it or whatever. But the fact that Peter Jackson was contacted to come out and talk, and yet they don't have access to the right props. The more and more I think about this, I'm thinking it comes down to merch and just other side aspects of this, where Amazon wants full custody of the props in terms of what they can and can't use. And I'm guessing either Peter Jackson, New Line, whoever has access or owns the rights to the props used in the original trilogy, they don't want to give Amazon sole ownership of them. That's my guess. It's really sad if that's the case, that like the fact that this show, like, here's the thing. If you want the show to be good, one of you has to relent, and obviously it should be Amazon. It's their show. Like, New Line has no, like, they're not getting any of the revenue from this show, so Amazon should just be like, okay, hey, look, we'll share it or something. Like, it would make it so much better, as I've talked about in previous videos, to just bring that familiarity to all of us who would recognize it right away and be like, boom, I know what's going on. I know what that sword's about, or I know what that piece of armor is, or I know what that little necklace is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would just know, and we wouldn't need the explanation. You could have little bit of an explanation, but then, you know, if it's not that important to the plot, people can go learn about it elsewhere. Like, they don't need to be a full thing. Like, now you're gonna have to explain to people what this sword is, because it doesn't look right, so I don't recognize it. That could be any old sword. You have to explain to me what this sword is and what it's doing in this hut.
Well, it's got this like it looks sinister.
It looks
To me.
evil. Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like the sword of a villain, which
Yeah.
that's why I'm thinking it's not the right sword.
So maybe it's
Like Sauron had a
yeah,
sword,
it's like a reversal. Like we stomped and we broke Sauron's sword.
or
and,
instead of
I
the
don't know.
instead of the cutscene of him having a mace and like just smoking dudes, maybe before that he did have a sword, and
Ooh, yeah, could
and
be the Witch King's sword.
yeah, but
Mm.
then, our sword was better, and our sword actually smashed his sword, and so that's when he took out the mace and started beaming dudes, and then, I mean, how else do I explain it? Like he's literally throwing like 5 dudes at a time with one swing of the mace. He's overpowered, is what it is. um, but yeah,
And then Bronwyn's the other new character here, and that's the one that's in the romantic relationship, the interracial and interspecies relationship
yes,
with
that's right.
the elf.
That's right. So yeah, Bronwyn, which obviously there's clear ties to Eowyn there, and in terms of the name, they're gonna have some sort of relationship, romantic it seems, with an elf, which is obviously similar to Aragorn, although that one's kind of a bit different because he actually did live there for a while. So he is part, well, he's a little bit elf, and Elrond is a little bit human, and so there's a little bit of a different setup there to this, but still in that sort of line of human and elf. Yeah, we're not really sure how that's going to play out because these characters are new to the show. Now, here's in this article, it does talk about the fact that, so a lot of people think that it is Narsil, but the article does mention that it actually could be the hilt of the sword Gurthang. So
Tell me about that sword.
yeah, we're gonna have to do a whole segment on that, because that is in a different story called The Children of Hurin, and it is not one that I'm not well familiar with, so I'd have to learn more about it.
Okay.
But it's not Narsil, potentially, which is what I sort of thought initially because it doesn't look right, and if I didn't have access to the prop, I just wouldn't use it. Because if that is Narsil, that looks so different. Like it doesn't even look like it would be in a battle with humans. Like, you know what I mean? Like it looks completely elfish or evil because it looks like it's made with like a tree root. Like it's a very different looking sword. If you are going to use Narsil, you should at least try to keep it to be more of a traditional looking sword, even if you can't use the same prop.
Yeah, something that came out of Gondor or something, yeah.
Yeah, like because you now have to have all Gondor soldiers using that or something similar to it. So, yeah. But yeah, so 2 new characters. These characters look fine. Like I don't think anyone has a problem with their looks.
It could be Gurthing. I'm just going on to the one wiki to rule them all, and it's kind of a dark elf sword.
There you
forged
go.
By Ael, the dark elf.
All right. Well, that does, like you said, it looks a little bit evil. I say it looks a little bit elvish. There we go. Literally combine the two. Because it does. It looks like it's supposed to be a nice, like, tree-hilted sword, and then it's been all twisted up by, like, dark magic or something. So, to me, that would fit a lot better than having it be Narsil and then having to explain that to fans, why that makes sense. So, I would much rather have it be this new sword that I don't know that much about, because I'd love to learn more about it. Now, they don't have access to this particular story, so...
They don't.
They have access to, I think, a mention of it from something in the appendices. So.
Oh, really? Okay, perfect.
So they'll be able to at least say that it is or isn't Gurthang. But that's probably all we'll get from the actual story of the Children of Hurin, unfortunately. All right, guys, what do you think in the comments down below? Do you think that this is Narsil? Do you think it's Gurthang? Or is it something random? I don't think it can be random. I think it has to be something important. Like, just look at the way this scene is framed. It's an important sword. I don't know what Bronwyn is doing in this scene. She's just like standing near a river. I'm not really sure.
Maybe it is random. Like Theo broke his dad's sword. He's like, oh shit.
I see.
He's gonna be mad when he gets home.
Okay, yeah. Well, when I say it can't be random, I can't just be like, it can't have no significance. So to him, that would be significant to Theo, right? If he broke his own, his family's sword, it'd have some sentimental impact to him. So it has to be something like that. It can't just be nothing. So it's got to be something. I don't think it has. Like, to me, I'm okay with it being a little bit more within the confines of this show. It doesn't have to be something that we know about, but it has to be significant to the show. Otherwise, don't show us a picture like this and then have us all thinking it's Narsil or something, and then like, oh my god, is this kid gonna be Aragorn? No. How does that make sense in this timeline? But yeah, I we shall see. I'm curious to see what they do with it. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I think I've seen a sword more similar to Narsil in some of the posters, so I hope they at least keep the look to be somewhat similar, so that it makes sense in the context of who was using Narsil.
I regret to announce this is the end. I bid you all a very fond farewell.